Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to go over the trades that we took on Friday as well as the game plan going into this week. So on Friday, this is what we opened up like. On the 30-minute chart, we knew that the market was still bullish because 10's above the 50 on the 635 calls. So since this chart is crossed, and even though we did close below back in here right off of open, we are still bullish because this chart never went negative. We got back with a 10 SMA right here at 12 o'clock, and then we just trended higher. So even if we look at the higher time frames, all the higher time frames did end up holding the 50s and are crossing at the moment. And then right here, this 4-hour chart is starting to look like it's going to cross. Futures are up nicely, I think like 0.5% on NQ right now. So probably going to see a move higher tomorrow, and this chart's going to end up crossing, which is just going to end up pushing us even higher because we're just going to be getting this initial 4-hour cross. And on the daily, we have nothing right now on the daily chart for the 50 SMA. We're probably going to get new contracts tomorrow, either 640s or the 645. So gonna see what those look like off of open. But I mean, like the higher time frames on, like I said, the July or the August 15th contracts, this tells us the monthly trend, and you can see we just been trending higher and higher because this chart is crossed. So likely this is just going to continue higher. We're going to be getting new contracts on these tomorrow because of the gap up. So probably going to get like the 640s or 645s, but you can see every dip on like the 4-hour and the daily got eaten up right here. We got this dip right here on whatever day this was, Wednesday, a few weeks ago, or like maybe a week ago. And then even on the daily chart, you can see all these dips ended up getting soaked up right here. 1 dip, 2 dips, 3 dips. It did close below the 50 right here twice, but I'm pretty sure you know, we didn't even have these contracts on the watch list. It was a different strike price, so it's kind of hard to gauge what strike we did have back in here. But again, we've had the 635 strike the last week, and every dip ended up getting bought up. For like the monthly contracts, you kind of use this 4-hour chart and then the daily chart to gauge dip buy entries. So yeah, those are the best time frames to use for those. On Friday, I didn't take any trades when it came to SPY. I didn't even look at the 0DT charts. I didn't even have them pulled up. I've just been focusing on option setup, so I'm just going to be going over those today because I didn't even have the charts pulled up on the 0DT, so I have no clue what those look like, and I can't even pull them up because they already expired. So I'm just going to be going into the option setups that I took and the game plan for this week when it comes to those. But for SPY, before we get into like actual individual stocks for SPY, like I said, we're still bullish. So on the 0DT charts, just look for a 5-minute dip to the 50 SMA or a 5-minute cross on calls. The calls will probably already be crossed at open tomorrow. So at that point, you just wait for the 50 SMA dip if you're trading any futures or 0DT options on SPY. But for individual stocks, this is what I took on Friday. It was very, very simple. So if we pull up the OKLO contracts, this was a perfect setup. I gave this before open. OKLO was down like 2 to 3% in pre-market, and I sent this chart before open, but I mean this was a textbook setup. So we got the 30-minute cross on, actually these are the wrong contracts, these are for the dailies, but if you look at the daily chart first off, this chart was just beginning to cross. I think I went over this in the last video, but again, this is one that was on my watch list because this daily chart is crossing on the monthly contract. So 10 SMA is going back with a 50. This means that OKLO is flipping back bullish, and over the next few days to maybe a week or two, this is going to continue to trend up higher. So since we're crossing, I'm looking for an entry on the 30-minute on the nearest Friday expiration. So if we go to those, it's these contracts right here. You can see right off of open, I sent the chart before open, and I liked how it looked because it was down like 2 to 3% in pre-market, and since we're already like trending all the way up in here, it was most likely going to hit this 50 SMA off of open. And right off open, I bought this dip down here at the 50, and that was the bottom. I ended up marking the bottom for the day. It didn't really do much for the rest of the day. I ended up selling it for like 100%. If you look here, here's the screenshot. This is the last screenshot I had of it, but right here at 92, I think it went like probably 110%. I sold it, I think, a little bit over 100. I don't know what the exact fill was because I just marketed it out, but yeah, that was the last screenshot I had. It was pretty simple. We were just buying this dip. We bought the 50 dip because we know that higher time frame is crossing on the daily, and then we use this 30-minute chart to gauge the dip buys in the trend, because once the weeklies are crossed, this 50 SMA is going to be your best spot to buy the dip. So that's exactly what we did because it did gap down off of open. So it was a perfect opportunity to grab this. I still like this for higher over the next couple days. So if you really wanted to, you could grab a swing. All the higher time frames are crossed here, and it looks really good for upside. I'm not sure what this 4 hour looks like. Yeah, there's nothing on the 4 hour really. And then I think the daily is, yeah, again, nothing really going on in the daily. But the August 15th contracts look really bullish for over the next couple days for it. So just buy the 30-minute 50 dips. That's your best like risk to reward area to buy it. Or just grab like a month out contracts and just hold it for a few days and sell on the way up. But yeah, that's what we took on Friday. It was very simple. And then I'm just going to go over some that I like going into this week. And I actually have Google right now. If we pull up Google, really like this chart on the higher time frame. So if we pull it up, daily chart is crossed already. So if we go here, you can see this is a perfect spot to buy. I mean, it really doesn't get simpler than this. Since this daily chart is crossed, every dip here to this 50 SMA, this is super strong support, and like this is where the stock is going to bottom if it wants to put in a bottom, and it's just the best spot to get an entry point because you can see, I mean, it's hard to see on this previous chart because this chart was really never crossed back in here, but if you just watch the last couple videos, this 50 SMA is a major pivot, and if we do hold it, most likely we're gonna, like, the risk to rewards just through the roof on this, because if this does play out, we're most likely gonna end up making new highs, and these contracts are gonna go over 100%. So and I also have shorter expiration, so that means even more potential for like the upside gain on the contract. So yeah, it's a very simple setup. There's no play off the 30-minute here on the nearest Friday expiration because the stock did pull back over the last like 2 days. So the 30-minute is way far from crossing bullish on the weeklies, but on like a higher time frame trend standpoint, this is a really good dip to buy because we're right at the 50 SMA, which is key support, and I favor this going higher, and this is something I called out on Friday and that I'm holding into this week. So really like Google. All the time frames look really good here. 4 hour got this dip to the 50, and then we're sitting right at the daily 50 SMA. So really like Google over the next couple days to go higher. Already in that. What else do we have? MRK, one that I'll be watching over the next couple days because we already hit this daily 50 once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5, 6, 7 times. So eventually, if this daily chart does cross, I'll be looking to play that 30-minute. I think the 30 minutes already crossed on it. So if we do break above and cross on the daily, then I'm just be looking for the 30-minute chart to give me any dips to the 50 SMA to grab some calls like a week or 2 out. So MRK, one to watch for. What else do we? Nike's another really good setup. I mean, I already played this last week and caught, I don't know, probably a couple 100%. But again, this chart is looking really good. We did break below this 50 SMA, but this chart is still it got back above the 10 to 50. Sometimes this will happen where we break below the 50, and then before it goes negative, it gets back above the 10 to 50, and then we go higher. So right now, this looks really good because we got back above the 10, the 50, the 10's pointing up, the 50's pointing up right here. So this does look really good to go higher over the next couple days from like maybe, I don't know, 3-4 days to like a week or 2. So another one to watch for a 30-minute cross. I forget if the weeklies are crossed or not. I'll have to check tomorrow based on where we open. But Nike's another good one. Coin, from a like higher time frame standpoint, this is a pretty good setup as well. You can see we're pulling back to this daily 50 on the monthlies. Again, these strikes will, possibly change off of the open depending on if we gap up or gap down on these certain stocks, because like Coin, it's a $400 stock. So like picking the nearest like 5th expiration or nearest 5th strike price is going to be, that could change like a lot if we do gap up or down. So again, though, like all the other charts will probably be similar, and maybe this 50 SMA will be a little higher or a little lower depending on which strike we get, but same scenario or same context applies because we're just waiting for the 30-minute on the weeklies to cross to get an entry. Or if we drop to this 50, that's a good spot to buy. But since there is a decent gap here of like, I don't even know what that is, like what, 40-50% maybe, probably not 50%, but like 30 to like 45% move that this could still drop to hit the 50. You would just wait for the 30-minute to cross on the weeklies to get an entry at that point, because it's either you wait for it to drop all the way to the 50, or if we do bounce before we hit it, then you play the 30-minute cross. That's kind of how I like going about that. But Coin, another good looking setup. We're probably like sitting right at the 4 hour 50 if I had to guess. Yeah, so we're sitting right around the 4 hour 50. So we did close below it. Possible we bounce from it and then get back above. But again, 30-minute cross on the weeklies is what to look for on Coin. And then we have a few others. Yeah, Okalo, like I said, this still looks really good to go over the next couple days. Daly's Crossing. And then we have, I already went over a coin, but I think is this the weekly chart? Yeah, this is the weekly chart. So if this 30-minute chart crosses, then this is a beautiful long to take. 10 goes above the 50. That's the entry point. You can see like what happens when that does happen. So initial cross, I can't even scroll back further, but let's say initial cross for here, you can see every dip to this 50 SMA is a major pivot point. So eventually it will break it at some point because the stock will have to pull back. But on the initial cross, it's a really good entry point to buy at the 50. So yeah, those are some setups that I'm watching for going into this week. If you guys enjoyed, drop a sub. If you guys want to learn, join the Discord down below. But that's all I got. I'm out. Peace.